She was found lifeless, pills scattered around her bed, the most radiant star Hollywood ever produced, extinguished overnight. Marilyn Monroe's glamorous mask shattered, revealing a haunting question. How did Hollywood's brightest legends become prisoners of their darkest obsessions? Marilyn's addiction didn't start overnight. It was Hollywood's darkest open secret. Beneath her captivating smile, Marilyn Monroe wrestled constantly with insomnia and crippling anxiety, both amplified by ruthless studio demands. Night after night, sleeping pills became her desperate refuge, numbing her loneliness, but chaining her to an unending cycle of dependency. She'd whisper to friends how the pills felt like freedom, yet each dose pulled her deeper into isolation. In her final months, Hollywood dismissed her as difficult, unaware, or unwilling to recognize her silent cry for help. Her sudden death at just 36 shattered illusions, sparking endless conspiracies and a painful realization. Behind the brightest spotlight hid a fragile woman whom Hollywood chewed up and discarded. Marilyn's legend survived, but tragically overshadowed by her vulnerability, forever reminding the world of fame's brutal toll. Yet Marilyn wasn't the only star Hollywood quietly destroyed. Judy Garland collapsed mid-performance, her body finally refusing to lie. From childhood, Hollywood pushed Judy to breaking point, forcing pep pills on her to keep filming through exhausting days, and sleeping pills to silence her racing mind at night. The studios praised her golden voice, while quietly feeding an addiction she could never escape. Each pill promised relief, but cost her a piece of her soul, unraveling her relationships, finances, and reputation. As her health deteriorated, Hollywood turned its back, labeling her unreliable. The tragic cycle reached its haunting climax when, at only 47, Judy was found lifeless in a London apartment, pills scattered nearby. Once America's sweetheart, she died penniless, her glorious career reduced to bitter headlines. Hollywood had devoured another legend, leaving only a cautionary tale behind. But while Judy faded quietly, another star's addiction burned brightly for everyone to see. Bette Davis smoked until directors begged her to stop, her scenes clouded by choking haze. Her cigarettes weren't just props, they were extensions of her fierce personality, constantly gripped between trembling fingers. Hollywood adored her raspy, commanding voice, unaware or unconcerned of its deadly price. On set, crews struggled as clouds of smoke blurred her close-ups, forcing retake after retake. Yet even as emphysema ravaged her lungs, she defiantly puffed away, declaring cigarettes the one pleasure Hollywood couldn't strip from her. Eventually, her habit stole her breath, voice reduced to a fragile whisper in haunting final interviews. The iconic actress who once dominated Hollywood's golden screens spent her final years gasping quietly, painfully isolated by the very addiction that once defined her fiery presence. Yet as Davis burned slowly from within, another beloved legend drowned faster, deeper into darkness. Spencer Tracy stumbled onto set drunk, shattering Hollywood's carefully crafted illusion. Beneath his polished charm, alcohol quietly became Tracy's constant companion, a desperate attempt to numb pressures that fame relentlessly piled on. Directors, desperate to protect his pristine image, rushed to cover up incidents where Tracy slurred lines or swayed dangerously between takes. Privately, loved ones watched helplessly as each bottle chipped away at his dignity, unraveling friendships and fracturing relationships. His health rapidly declined, the addiction weakening him physically and financially, yet Hollywood chose to look away rather than intervene. When Tracy died at 67, respected but broken, his colleagues mourned not just a lost talent, but the silent suffering they'd conveniently ignored. His struggles remained hidden, haunting those who knew the truth. But if Tracy's demons thrived in secret, the next legend's unusual addiction became an open Hollywood joke. Cary Grant's elegant exterior masked a secret psychedelic escape. In the 1950s, Grant shocked insiders by voluntarily undergoing dozens of LSD therapy sessions, long before it became a cultural trend. To him, the drug wasn't rebellion, it was revelation. He claimed it peeled back layers of ego, helped him understand his failed marriages, and gave him peace of mind. But in an era when image was everything, this honesty nearly ruined him. Studio executives panicked, fearing box office fallout. Rumors spread fast. Was Cary Grant mentally unstable? A risk to work with? Invitations vanished. Roles dried up. And the suave star was quietly pushed out of leading man territory. Though he credited LSD with saving his life, the price was Hollywood's trust. And, in some circles, his legacy. Grant sought clarity in visions. But the next icon? She sought control, down to every last speck of dust. Joan Crawford didn't just clean. She waged war on imperfection. Her obsession with spotless surfaces became legend. Floors weren't clean unless they gleamed like glass. Towels had to be folded a certain way. Furniture? Measured and aligned. Behind the scenes, it was more than a quirk, it was compulsion. Friends recalled her scrubbing tile grout at midnight, or violently tearing apart a room over a single out-of-place object. The deeper truth? Joan's relentless cleaning was her way of reclaiming control in an industry that had stripped it away. But that same obsession alienated those closest to her. Her daughter, Christina, would later reveal disturbing details in a tell-all memoir that shattered Joan's legacy, painting her not as glamorous, but as unhinged. Hollywood was forced to reckon with a darker image, a woman desperately scrubbing away demons no one could see. Joan tried to clean her world spotless, but the next legend's demons came bottled, bitter, and silent. Vivien Leigh could command a stage, but couldn't quiet the storm inside her head. Plagued by undiagnosed bipolar disorder, Vivien struggled to balance brilliance with breakdowns. As her episodes grew more intense, the studios insisted she medicate. Tranquilizers became a lifeline and a leash. She took them before scenes. After scenes, in silence, in desperation, they dulled the chaos but also dimmed her light. Friends described moments where Vivien would stare blankly, unable to speak, her once vivid eyes glazed with exhaustion. Offstage, her marriage to Laurence Olivier fractured under the weight of her condition. As the pills took hold, roles stopped coming. Appearances became rarer. By the time of her death at 53, Hollywood had long since turned the page, unwilling to confront the reality of a star so visibly unraveling. Vivien's decline was quiet and slow, but the next crash came loud, fast, and fatal. James Dean didn't flirt with danger. He made love to it at full speed. To the public, he was the embodiment of youthful rebellion. But off-screen, Dean's obsession with racing cars wasn't just a thrill, it was therapy. He once told a friend he felt most alive behind the wheel. In 1955, fresh off the success of Rebel Without a Cause, Dean purchased a silver Porsche 550 Spider and named it Little Bastard. He was warned repeatedly not to drive it. Just days later, he sped down a California highway, colliding head-on with another car. The Porsche was mangled. Dean was dead at 24. Hollywood had lost its brightest new star, not to drugs or scandal, but to his own need for adrenaline. His death wasn't just a tragedy. It was a prophecy fulfilled. Dean died chasing a thrill. But the next legend faded slowly, buried under silence and sorrow. Orson Welles once filled theaters with thunder, then filled his nights with silence and scotch. A visionary director and actor, Welles revolutionized cinema with Citizen Kane. But behind the genius was a man slowly unraveling. Repeatedly rejected by studios who feared his ambition, Welles turned to alcohol, not for celebration, but survival. As project after project was shelved or sabotaged, the bottle became his only collaborator. He'd disappear for days, then reappear slurring through interviews or arriving late to set. His once commanding figure ballooned with age, and his finances followed suit, spiraling into chaos. He began accepting commercials and half-hearted roles just to stay afloat. By the time he died at 70, Orson Welles, the man once hailed as a cinematic god, was struggling to fund his final film, and largely forgotten by the industry he helped shape. But even Welles's fall couldn't match the heartbreak of Hollywood's most tragic transformation. Montgomery Clift looked like a god on screen, but off-screen, he was piecing himself back together. In 1956, at the height of his fame, Clift's car slammed into a telephone pole after leaving a party at Elizabeth Taylor's home. The crash shattered his face and nearly took his life. Surgery saved him, but the man who returned to set was a ghost of the one Hollywood had adored. Racked with chronic pain and crushed by his altered appearance, Clift turned to painkillers and alcohol to cope. His performances grew erratic. Studios hesitated. The once flawless leading man now arrived late, slurred lines or forgot them entirely. He lived in shadows, both literal and emotional, until his body gave out in 1966, alone in a New York apartment at just 45. Hollywood mourned, but quietly. He'd been fading for years. They called him the slowest suicide in Hollywood, but Clift's pain was very real and very human. They lit up the screen, but behind the curtain, they burned. Fame gave them everything, then took it all back. These weren't just addictions. They were lifelines, prisons, and quiet cries for help. If their stories moved you, stay with us. Subscribe and share who you'll never see the same again.